Working on the mind. Hello, everybody. Hear the lyrics of this song and remember that we are all listening, probing, questioning, querying, trying to find out what's going on. Tapping on my head.
Is there something that I didn't do right?
We always feel that we may have missed something.
Something that I need to know.
Something that I need to know.
Something that I need to write.
Something I gotta fix.
You are tapping in the nighttime.
You're tapping in the nighttime.
Tapping all day long. Maybe you just won't hear sweet song.
Enter in now.
You just want me to sing again.
You want me to sing again. Oh yeah. Can I kind of relax into this song, into the lyrics, to the sound, to the resonations, or the reverberations, or the reverbs, the vibrations, the energy, the syncopations, the cadence.
What is the plan?
What is the plan? Everybody wants to know the plan. Heal my mind. We'll talk about that tonight.
How to walk this land.
How to walk my destiny.
You are tapping in the nighttime.
God is tapping the universe, the questions.
Maybe I am the song of freedom.
Maybe I'm the song of freedom.
And the voice of so many men.
The voice of so many men and women
and children who love one another.
Whoa. Men and women
and children who sing for the rivers, men, women, and children.
You like that?
Who sing for the mountains. Oh, women and children.
Oh, wow. I could listen to that all night. I know you could too, probably. And maybe later on we will hear a little bit more of that from my friend. That's Charles Holt, who, and you can get him at www.charlesholtproductions.com, www.charlesholtproductions.com, and to get this whole CD. It's called I Am. It's just fantastic. Many of you have made inquiry about it. Well, again, Happy New Year. We're into the last week of the month, the last day of this month. Today is the 31st. Happens to be my oldest sister's birthday. Just called her a little bit ago. And some of my best friends were born in this month. Some of the nearest and dearest to me. The people who have had some very intimate relationships over the years and have long-lasted relationships. From my sister, who's the oldest of our 6 children in our family, living children. And my mentor. I've loved her. She's been my heroine. And she's 65 years old, and I turned 60 in March. Can you believe that? So we're still eating good foods and looking for ways to enhance how I experience myself and how others experience me. I've been staying away from meat all the month of January, and as a new lifestyle that I'm adopting, no meat or less meat, and to depress the carnivorous appetite and emphasize the herbivore, the appetite toward herbs and greens and vegetables and plant-based non-violent foods that don't violate my body, foods that are not violated with steroids and pesticides. And I feel so much better. I've lost weight, not intentionally. It just falls off of me. I've been going through the detox and cleansing and purgation of the body. And that's very important for all of us. And again, we're going to be talking about depression in a minute. Sometimes what you eat, the chemistry of your body responds differently and can cause sleeplessness and depression and no digestion, and that you can relax and live a better life. Madge, I need you to be quiet, sweetheart. Sorry, my daughter knows I'm doing live, and there she's talking on the phone. Anyway, thanks for listening tonight or whenever you're listening. We're reaching all kinds of countries. I keep hearing. I got a great letter this week from a gentleman from Lisbon, Portugal, who owns a radio station over there as a professor, and I loved his words. And he had read my letter on picking up the pieces, gathering up the fragments of life. If you didn't get that letter, it's because I don't have your email address, but I sent it out. I'm asking people actually to support what we're doing. I'm gathering up the pieces and fragments of my own life as Jesus had instructed his disciples after he had fed 5,000 people. He said, now everybody's fed, satiated, complete. Now go gather up the pieces, the leftovers, the fragments, so that nothing is lost. Many of us are recollecting and reconnecting with our fragmented selves, so that none is lost. Our broken selves and souls, broken hearts, broken dreams, scattered and shattered parts of us. We can recollect. In 2013, I'm doing that. I'm recollecting and reconnecting and reconciling to myself and soul, and that's important as well. So anyway, that letter was powerful. And he said he wept as he read it because he's gone through some personal challenges, as we all do. We need your support to keep this going, so please do what you can tonight. We're desperately in need for more support to do, because our hands are tied behind our back. There's only so much we can do to extend and expand this very powerful ministry. The letters I have gotten just this week. In fact, what motivated me to talk about depression tonight is a letter and I've been trying to find it all day. I can't even find the letter that inspired tonight's topic, but it was from a very brilliant, very well-spoken young man who came from a traditional background similar to mine, spiritual or religiously, from the charismatic Pentecostal Word of Faith movement. But now he's expanded his consciousness, and he's living a much more extension of himself. But at the same time, he's dealing with depression. Sometimes when you birth something, like women go through postpartum depression, they birthed something wonderful and awesome in the earth. There was something on the television about it the other day, but they experience this depression. They don't want to get out of the bed. They don't want to bathe. They don't want to brush their teeth. They don't want to eat. Some people won't watch television or radio or music. They just can't function. Everything shuts down. They say that happens to a small percentage of women who have babies. And then some women go through that when they go through the empty house syndrome. All their children, my mother went through it. My mother's now 83 years old, but we all left when she was still in her 40s. And I couldn't understand when I went to college why she would be in the bed every time I came home. My mother was my best friend. We used to go to church together, and I'd go to all her meetings with her and drive her around, and we were very close. People said I'm a mama's boy. Actually, she was a son's mama more than I was a mama's boy. She didn't favor me necessarily, but I favored her. I just loved my mama still to this day. And she didn't want to go any places with me when I came back from college. She didn't want to go to church. She didn't want to go out to eat. I used to love to hear her laugh. I still do. She loves to laugh. She's out of that, but it didn't dawn on me at that time. My mother was going through depression. And the marriage was a little bit shaky. She was going through things with my dad, as all marriages go through, and they'll be celebrating 66 years this coming April 2013. But so they've been through things. And I knew there were times when my mom would just not function. And I didn't know it was depression, because we don't get depressed. We're Christians and full of the Holy Ghost. In my Pentecostal background, we just rebuke the devil and cast him out, or read some scriptures, or go hear a sermon or something like that. But even the ministers were depressed very often. The leaders of the church, the deacons and elders and pastors and church mothers were depressed a lot. And we would not have termed it that, but they were. You could feel that deadly negative emotion and energy around them. We're still gathering up fragments, and life is that. So please send the questions, and as it's called, askcarlton@bishoppearson.com, and many of you are doing that, askcarlton@bishoppearson.com. And I've gotten all these wonderful questions, and it makes me talk the way I'm talking tonight, and we'll continue to talk about things. Tonight, I want to talk about managing and mastering depression. And this is based, again, on one of the letters somebody sent me, and those letters are very important, and I relate to all of them and all of you. Thank you so much for your responses. And for those of you, not a large amount of you are giving, but those of you who do, I greatly appreciate you. Any amount, whether it's 10 or 20, or some people have recurring gifts at every month of $10 comes automatically out of their account, or $20 or $50. And there's a couple that are higher than that, and I appreciate it, because we're doing the best we can to impact the planet in the most positive way that we can. But managing and mastering depression, I really could say managing and mastering life. Because life and depression sometimes appear to be one of the same thing. The ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, the high tides and low tides, or high times and low times, inhaling, exhaling, For most, life is little less than a sexually transmitted disease. Your mom and them mom and them were intimate. A sexually transmitted disease or dis-ease. It's an incurable disease. And it's terminal because we all go through the transition that many call death. But it's not an untreatable disease. There are some diseases that are not curable, like life, but they're also treatable. In fact, this 1 hour session or so that we use each week, or those of you who are catching it in the archives, it is an hour of therapy. The Greek word for healing, most often used in the New Testament, is the word therapeuo, where we get the English word therapy. It's not the word aiomai, even when it refers to Jesus, which means cure. There are not a lot of cures, but there's a whole lot of care. So we're not being curative tonight as much as we're being curative. We're offering care. I'm treating and attending to the menial needs of human beings being human. That's what I do. Have to do it for myself. But even I have been experiencing moments and periods of depression, and because you can't teach what you don't know, and you can't lead where you don't go. I have to experience what I'm expressing. I'm not just a clinician who has never experienced this. I didn't just learn this through a book or something. I've experienced what I talk about here. And I'm glad that I do. And everything I go through is never just for me. It's for those whom I influence, or who I who are in my sphere of influence and circle of love. Life is funny, but it ain't no joke. I've been saying, I don't even know where I heard that. I think I made it up when I was in high school. It just kind of boiled out of me one time. 40-some years ago, I used to say, life is funny, but it ain't no joke. Life, somebody said, life is a beach. We must all learn to sunbathe or swim. Life is a beach. So we've all got to learn how to sunbathe or swim or sink. Or I didn't say sunburn, sunbathe, and there's a difference. We have to learn how to monitor how we take in the energy and how we disperse and distribute the energy of our minds, the energy in our body, the energy in our bodies, the energy around us, the influences, people's thoughts, people's words, conversations, your relationships with other human beings. Depression is a severe despondency and rejection, typically felt over a period of time. It's not just pressure. Some people think pressure is depression. Life has all kinds of pressures. That's not necessarily depression. But depression is felt generally over a period of time and accompanied by feelings of hopelessness and inadequacy. That can come and go. Some people are chronically depressed. They're always feeling hopeless. They're always feeling inadequacy. They're always feeling despondency. They go through life that way. They go through weeks at a time. There's a nominal or normal depression that, everybody experiences. And then there's this chronic or clinical depression, possibly connected to chemistry or to chemical imbalances, which affects your emotions. It can be a physiological and psychological depression. You've heard of psychosomatic illnesses. Psyche is the mind. Soma is the flesh in Greek, the body. Psychosomatic, that you can be convinced that you're sick, but the doctors can find no clinical reasons for the particular illness that you're describing. So it's all in the mind. That's why they use placebos, which are not actually medications, but they are artificial. Not just synthetic, they are artificial. You think it's treating the pain in your body, and because your mind thinks that aspirin or that pill that you're popping is addressing an issue, you tell yourself you're not hurting anymore. So that's called psychosomatic sickness. There's psychosomatic healing. When I did the great healing crusades with Oral Roberts and sometimes with Catherine Kuhlman or myself, I would create the atmosphere and tell the people they're going to be healed. Somebody always was. Yes, it was by faith. We had the music, we had the crowd, we had the energy, we had the voice inflections, and I was moving, and I still do that when I'm trying to get people, I'm trying to convince people that they're okay, persuade them to accept that they're okay, rather than the illusion of isolation and alienation, distance from God or separation from God. That's impossible. But we have all these illusions. Our imaginations make us depressed. We imagine that something is wrong, or that somebody is against us, or that we have enemies. It's the enemy in me, I say. Everything is consciousness. Everything is thought. That's why I always have the thinker behind me. thinking. Mind is powerful. There are mental obstructions or mental interruptions. And you've heard of people being, that's insane. The word insanity means a state of mind that prevents normal perceptions or behavior or social interaction. A state of extreme annoyance or distraction. Some preachers get in the pulpit and they think they're anointed and they're just annoyed. I've been there. You're just thundering it out and you're preaching, you're doing your thing, and but you're annoyed, and you're not really ministering. You're meddling. You get people upset, and I understand maybe there's a time for that. But insanity is that state of mind that prevents you from normal perception. See, life is not just what you feel; it's what you think about what you feel. Perception is the ultimate reality, but not necessarily the ultimate truth. Perception, it's not only what you perceive, but then how you interpret or translate what you perceive. How does that translate into your reality? You can read words, especially in another language. I can read Spanish better than I can, as well as I can speak about it. I don't always understand. I need a translator. You see, I can, and sometimes when I'm preaching overseas, and I've done that many times, whatever language I'm addressing, they speak in that language, and then I speak English, then they interpret, and I have to be careful that they're translating as well as interpreting, because sometimes they twist what I'm saying, and so that they're not just translating from the transliterating or translating, but they're interpreting how they perceive what I'm saying. And then there have been times when I could sense the crowd wasn't getting my point, and I had to say to my interpreter, "Say to me what you think I said to them." And I have to there have been times when I've corrected my interpreter, and I also have to do that when I'm communicating to me, because life has to do with how you experience and express and expose yourself first to you. Remember, we're talking about managing and mastering depression, the anxiety of mind, the insanity that we all go through. The word insanity comes from the word sanitize in English. Insanity from sanitize, and to sanitize means to make clean, or really to make clear. And hygienic. Hygienic comes from the Greek word hugiazo, where we get the hugiano or hugiazo, where we get the word wholeness or health. I wish that thou would be prosper and be in health, hugiano in Greek. That you might be whole, that you might have resolution and completion in your life. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, wholeness, even as your psyche, your soul, your psyche prospers. Your thinking must be prosperous. Prosperous means to reach the destination, or bon voyage. That's the equivalent of that in English. When somebody says, "I wish above all that you prosper, that you reach destination or fulfill destiny, that you fulfill purpose, that you understand why you're here." When you get depressed, depression can also come out of your amnesia, that you forget that you agreed to this encounter that we call life. You have forgotten that you agreed pre-incarnately to come to this planet or this plane of consciousness or this plan of reality. This plane, this planet or planet, this plan as a plant, that you're literally planted into this plane. Your roots go deep. Your thoughts go high. You expand and expose and embrace your own soul, and you say yes to being here. When you forget that you agreed to come, you panic. Pan is the Greek god for fear. You panic. You get afraid. And you start adopting and creating and imagining phobias. It's like paranoia. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. So this whole word about wholeness and sanitized, clear, There's a place in Scripture, and I still refer a lot to Scripture, even though I'm not a biblical literalist, where Jesus is referred to as casting out unclean spirits. I say unclear energies, imprecise energies, non-distinct. They're not clear or clarified. They're not verified or certified. They're uncertain. And you're not very. When you want to be verified, that means you want to be very you. When you want to be certified, you want to be certainly you. When you want to be clarified, you want to be clearly, precisely you. We're all trying to make decisions. Decision, precision, incision. Think about that. Decision is a conclusion or resolution reached after consideration. Precision is a conclusion or resolution precision means to be exact and more accurate in your resolution. Decision with accuracy. That's precision. And it comes from the idea, the root word, there is incision, the action or process of cutting or cutting into something, to be cut to pattern. So you make decisions with precision, which is an incision in the pattern of your soul. My grandmother was a seamstress, my mother's mother. I used to watch her, and one night she would get an imagination of what she wanted to wear to church on a Sunday morning. She'd start sometimes on Saturday night, sometimes on Friday. But I've seen her stay up all night and create her own. She'd cut that. She'd get those pinking shears. They used to call them pankin shears back in those days, country. And she'd cut the pattern, and then she would add to it what she wanted, but she would make sure it was cut to pattern, and then she'd lay the material on it, and she had the old sewing machine that you press with your foot. It was just fascinating to watch her do that, and she would do it. I would never interrupt her. I'd be watching television or something, but I loved my grandmother's ability to do that. Then the next morning, I'd see her put this gorgeous dress that she had just created the night before. She would take the pattern from the store. You buy them at the store. And she would lay it out on the table, the big dining room table there in the house. And she would be cutting. She'd have her glasses on and her bifocals. And I watched her. I can remember. I can picture that in my mind right now. It's such a precious, precious thought. But she always cut it to pattern. We are all cut to pattern. We came here to fit a pattern for our own destiny. I mean, the God-ordained or universally planned, preordained pattern. And we're all a part of that plan. We're all a part of a pattern. And when we're in that flow, there is less disdain. There's less frustration. It's when we lose our sense of direction and feel out of the flow, or we're not fluid, then we're afraid. Life is one big mind game. And games are not played, are not just played, they're usually competitive. People play to win. We talk about the game of life. Most people play to win. Now, there's an athletic player, and there's a sportsman or woman, a sports person. Athlete comes from the Greek word athletes, which means prize or medal. When you're in to win the prize, you're a little bit more sincere. And those people would tend to have experiences of depression more. I saw one of the Williams girls the other day get really upset and depressed on the court. She lost the Australian Open to another young, beautiful African-American teenager who once Serena was this young lady's idol in tennis and had her picture hanging up in her bedroom. And that little girl won the tennis match, the Australian Open, against Serena Williams, one of the Williams daughters. It was traumatic for Serena. She panicked, and she got depressed on the court, and she beat her tennis racket on the court because she's very competitive. She was going for the prize, going for the gold. A sports person is not that intense. You don't play for keeps. You don't play for points. You can beat the tennis ball back and forth across, run around the court, get the good exercise, and your heart's beating, and that's all wonderful. You sweat, and the blood is flowing, and that's all you want to do. You're not there to beat your opponent. You have no opponent. You're just playing. A sports fisherman will catch the fish and then throw it back. And sports hunts, people don't really want to kill an animal. They want to see if they can get it on focus. Of course, some do want to bring the trophy and cut the head off and have it texted to a taxidermied and stuffed, and they hang it in their house and say, "That's what I won. I'm a winner." So the more goal-oriented you are, the more focused and targeted you are, the more competitive you will be when you're going for the goal. And this is not a denunciation, it's not a criticism, it's an observation. When you're going for the goal, the tendencies for you to be depressed are greater than a person who doesn't play for keeps. And you find some of the most successful people have very high highs and very low lows. They go through different shifts and changes in their lives. I deal with them all the time. Many of them are leaders. Many of them are ministers. And I always use an explanation when I talk about ministers who are depressed is that dentists do get cavities. And mechanics' cars break down too. Cardiologists die of cancer, of a heart failure. And oncologists, cancer specialists, can die of cancer. That doesn't mean that he was a bad oncologist or a cardiologist or mechanic or dentist. It's that we can be so busy helping other people or doing our profession, doing destiny, if you will, that we don't, or we tend to neglect certain needs we have emotionally, psychologically, even physically. And you can be depressed in all kinds of ways. You can be depressed physically. Now, I'm turning 60, so my body sometimes reminds me that I'm not 40. It doesn't have to, but it does. And you can be all as positive as you want. You just slow down a little bit. Sometimes I want to rub my hands because the joints are not as comfortable, or a hip or a knee. I might be a little sore. My son, he's 18. Sometimes he likes to throw me down on the floor, and he likes to wrestle. He's always liked to do that, but he's gentle with me because he knows I'm not as agile as I am. I'm in good shape. I take care of myself. But he's my boy is strong as an ox. And he's been strong as far as I can remember. I mean, as soon as he got a little older and he could control his physicality, he just got strong. And that's okay to be not as strong as you were, but you don't denounce or deny yourself. You don't have to get depressed over it. You accept life as it comes and deal with the flow as it is. When you start resenting and resisting and protesting and contesting, then the deadly negative emotions are flowing, and that can cause depression. When you get too serious, it can lead to fears and phobias. An extreme or irrational fear or aversion to something. That's what phobias are. It's an extreme or irrational fear of or aversion to something. You don't need to have extreme or irrational fear of or aversions to anything. Just exit out. Because those phobias lead to paranoia. You work with people who are paranoid. Or you may be the paranoid that somebody's working with. Paranoia is a mental condition that's characterized by delusions of persecution, unwarranted jealousy, exaggerated self-importance. Typically, it's elaborated into an organized system of thinking that you're always jealous and you're always overly important and you're always the victim and you're suspicious and you're looking around and you have these delusions of persecution and somebody's after you. Paranoia could be an aspect of chronic personality disorder. Think about that. Drug abuse, some serious conditions such as schizophrenia, in which the person loses touch with reality. I know Christians and priests and preachers and even some meditators or yoga, people that are into yoga. You can go crazy. You can get paranoid or get schizophrenic anytime when you have these visions of grandeur and delusions. So staying focused, and don't take yourself too seriously. Be sincere. That means to be pure. But don't be so serious that you take on too much of the responsibilities. It can be a burden. Then you take literally the burden of the world on your shoulder. And you can't sleep. You worry about... I'm the kind of person that can have that tendency. I don't often show it. But I have to deal with saving the world. Now, for years, I wanted to save them from God. Or from the wrath of God. Or from the devil. Or from hell. And I thought that's Jesus' assignment to save us from God or protect us from God or from God's wrath. And I was in this cosmic conflict, trying to win the lost, and there was a lot of exasperation, a lot of depression. One of the things you can find in a preacher's office, and even in our Pentecostals, was olive oil for prayer and some Rolaids. Ulcers, gas, acidity in the stomach, heartburn, anxiety. Sometimes our prayers were very intense, very agonizing. We think of Jesus agonizing in the Garden of Gethsemane, and the Scripture says he prayed till his sweat looked like drops of blood. And we think of the passion and the pathos and the agony and the pain and the victimization of being a follower of God or of Jesus and a minister and a Christian, and this martyr syndrome that many people have. And we've had this thing for thousands of years and thought it was justifiable based on the way we perceive Scripture. The Bible is about a lot of victimization. In fact, the word sacrifice actually means victim. Whatever animal was sacrificed before they were sacrificing humans, whatever animal was called the victim to be sacrificed. The purest young virgin, usually a young woman. Later, first it was plants, and animals, and then it became humans. All the way up to Jesus and subsequent martyrs to him who were killed or executed for being different. So we've got this consciousness that we are supposed to suffer for Jesus and bear the cross. And sometimes we invite depression and anxiety into our lives because we think that gives us license to be a follower of God or of Jesus, or a doer of good because of all the people who were killed, the Mahatma Gandhis and the Martin Luther Kings and the Galileos and Newtons and even Socrates. Anybody who rocks the boat for what we would consider a larger good cause ends up dying or being persecuted in some way. So it's amazing how these things occur in our thinking, and we do bring things on ourselves inadvertently. We don't mean to, but when they get there, we justify them by saying, I'm supposed to be hurting, I'm supposed to be lonely, or I'm depressed because I'm black, or because I'm fat, or because I'm gay, or because I'm poor, or because I'm white, or Hispanic, or Latino, or Chinese, or because I'm an American, or because I'm not an American, or because I'm a Christian, or I'm a believer, or I'm not a believer, and I'm not a Christian. So these things are supposed to happen to me. We keep giving ourselves excuses and then lamenting over the excuses. We have this self-pity thing, which affects our self-worth and our self-wealth, and we become impoverished in mind. I'm identifying these things because these are the causes of depression and that we bring on ourselves. It's the way we think and the way we appraise and analyze and evaluate situations. And remember, it's just not what you feel, it is what you think about what you feel, and how you interpret what you feel, how you perceive who you are in the world. We all have to do that. I'm redoing it all the time. When you go through quote-unquote persecution and rejection, and we all do it at different levels, and nobody can hurt you like somebody you love. In fact, nobody can hate you like somebody you love or somebody who loves you. Some of the worst pain that's ever experienced is experienced by and through people or relationships that are important to you. If the relationship wasn't important to you, you wouldn't, at least emotionally, not be so painful. There's the physical agony of something like slavery, with which you have no relation with the perpetrator. Then there is, you're a slave in a relationship. Slave as a child, slave as a spouse, slave as an employer or employee. And you feel enslaved to your job, enslaved to your business, enslaved to by your ministry, till you start hating your parishioners. I know ministers do. Hating the job, hating your business, and you founded it. And it has been somewhat good to you. But there's so much stress and anxiety in trying to keep it going. Or the relationship that is precious to you with a son or a daughter or a sibling. And you hate it because you love it. It hurts because you love. Because love is a very self-serving and self-centered word, one of the most self-serving and self-centered words in the human dialogue or dialect. It's costly and sometimes caustic. It's powerful and prophetic, but also pathetic to love or be in love, or sometimes to be loved. You can have an overly smothering parent or spouse that they love you so much, they just drive you nuts. That's the way life is. So monitoring all of this and measuring all of this, managing all of this and mastering all of this is a discipline. And it takes time to learn that discipline. It takes time to master that discipline. So that's why we're talking about it tonight. A mental disorder and a mental illness, they're similar. It's a psychological pattern or anomaly. That's something that's abnormal or not normal, potentially reflected in behavior. When there's mental disorder or mental illness or weakness or malignity or malady, I should say, it is reflected in your behavior. That's generally associated with distress or a sense of disability, that you're physically, financially, professionally unable to realize goals or to please yourself or to please somebody else. These are some of the causes. I'm identifying them so you can see it coming and know how to avoid it. I don't know how to prevent it, but I do know how to avoid it. I mean, you're going to have opportunities to feel mental disorder or or that your mind is out of order, that there's an illness or weakness there. That happens all the time. You must see it coming and know how to prepare for it. When they give the forecast of winter or snow or a dip in the temperatures or a peak in the temperatures, it's going to get warmer or colder, then you prepare for it. You cannot stop the temperature, change it. You cannot change the temperature, but you can adjust to the temperature. If it's hot, you take more off. If it's cold, you put more on. If it's dark, you turn up more light or use what light you have. When it's too bright, you might put on shades. You're constantly adjusting. That's what life is. When I say it's a sexually transmitted disease, I mean dis-ease. There's tension. I remember when I was in the flag patrol of the Boy Scouts, Boys Club, the Cub Scouts, they used to say, "Attention!" We stand rigid. Attention. At ease. Tension. At ease. Remember, where there's tension, there's attention, followed by intention. Intention is a response to attention, which is a response to tension, stress, stretch. And then you navigate that every day. So dealing with these senses, a sense of disability and distress over a behavioral modification, because life as a sexually transmitted disease, because of the dis-ease in life, we develop coping mechanisms, behavioral modifications, and ultimately, almost consistently, pain management. We're managing the pain. We don't always know how to avoid it. It just suddenly happens. And sometimes it's a pain to thought. It's a pain for some people to eat because maybe they have dental problems, or because they have indigestion problems, or they have problems eliminating. It's difficult to eliminate, urinate, defecate. People have pain in all kinds of things. Some people have pain just bending over or walking. It's a knee or a joint or a lower back pain, or you have headaches. Life has a lot of pain in it. How do we manage it? What is the treatment? Some just use drugs. Some use medication. Others use meditation. Some use both. Pop a pill and meditate. Some people will drink a glass of wine. They're going to calm their nerves. Many people, there are millions of people, billions, who take sleeping aids every night. Not because they can't sleep, but because they're afraid they might not be able to. There's a lot of people who sleep easily and regularly, but because of fear that they might not, or for some reason may be awakened, they take a sleeping aid that they don't even need. It's not really, it's all psychological, psychosomatic again. The same person who takes a sleeping aid may find themselves dozing all day long, off and on, taking cat naps. They don't have a problem sleeping. They have a problem thinking clearly about sleep or about rest or about problems. It's thinking more than sleeping. So we have to deal with these mental disorders and this mental illness, and this whole idea of these mental disorders are generally defined by a combination of how a person feels, acts, thinks, or perceives. How you feel, how you act, how you think, and how you perceive. When I say act, I mean how you activate or how you engage your life. To engage is to sort of occupy or attract or involve yourself in someone's interest or something that draws your attention, and then you act on that. How you think, what you believe, what your opinion or appraisal, what your idea or ideology about something is. Thinking. Or how you perceive something, how you understand, how you interpret, how you translate the experience. You might have an encounter with somebody verbally, or a conversation with somebody. You both walk away, especially let's start with you and your spouse or partner. You have that encounter verbally. You have that tit for tat. Then you walk away from that conversation. You may have totally different interpretations or perceptions of the encounter. You may see that you were hostile or they were hostile, or that you were victimized, or that you were the victimizer. I got him told. I got them straight. You didn't hear a thing they said. You presumed they heard a thing you said. They didn't really hear you. They just felt you. They felt your animosity. They felt your hostility. They felt your disrespect and your disdain. They didn't hear a word you spoke. You left them with a feeling. Now they have to go and think about how they're going to interpret that feeling. You leave thinking, I sure told them. Or you leave there wimping and weeping and feeling defeated and offended and abused and insulted and demeaned. That's the feeling you have. Then you start thinking about those feelings and how you felt that person or partner perpetrated that on you. Then you develop attitudes toward them, which cause the relationship to become even more stressful or stressed, tense, agonizing, antagony. The middle word there is agony. You're antagonistic or antagonizing. You're agonizing over something, feeling that grief. It's a sense of bereavement because part of you died in that conversation. Part of you died, or you became a murderer and killed somebody, and you killed somebody you love. So a sense of bereavement and mourning comes upon you. You killed somebody with a word, with an attitude, in a conversation. You just struck them down, or felt struck down, or murdered, or assassinated by that person. And both of you are mourning the death of the relationship. So what's the response to that? First of all, stop killing. That's oversimplification. Go back and study the reasons, because I don't judge a person by what they do, but by what they were thinking 10 minutes before they did it, or 10 hours, or 10 days, sometimes weeks, 10 years. Because most of our pain is historical. That is, it comes out of our past. So I don't say, why am I hurting? I say, where did this pain originate? Sure, I could have a conversation with my wife that hurts me, or my words hurt her, but it's not me. It's the origin of that pain, because she could trigger something in me, or I could trigger something in her, or somebody I'm working with or working for, or who's working for me. Something I can say can bring something up in a person that I really have nothing directly to do with. It may have occurred 30 years prior to that, or 10 years, or 10 days, or 10 hours. But I brought it up. I reminded them, and it's like pulling a scab off a sore that was healing but wasn't healed, and they lash out at you. That can happen to a bus driver. Just because the person is driving the bus, that doesn't mean they didn't have an argument on their way to the bus station, or when they left the house last night, or that morning, or an argument last night. I know preachers can have violent verbal arguments with their spouses, male or female, before they get to church. And they walk up in the pulpit wounded and angry and hurt. And from our old Pentecostal background, we were praying in the Holy Ghost, praying in tongues, and which I still do, and ministering to myself, and the tongue is for edification, to build yourself back up, because you've been beat down so much. Sometimes it's not your spouse, it's the trustees, or the deacon board, or the hierarchy of the church, or some encounter you had with one of the members in the parking lot, or as you walked through the door because you didn't answer their call, or they didn't get to see you last week. Preachers go through all kind of changes. Believe me, I've been preaching for 41 years, licensed and ordained. Licensed longer than ordained. But ordained 42 years this coming October, so I know what preachers go through and reachers go through. And doctors, one of the highest suicide rates professionally is psychiatrists. Psychiatrists have the statistics, they have the highest suicide rate among professionals, followed by dentists. I don't know all the reasons. Dentists looking at somebody's... More people hate a dentist than a doctor. You know the dentist is going to hurt you. You think of them pulling your teeth. It's like pulling teeth. It's like pulling teeth. That's a very negative connotation. Like pulling teeth, getting that done. Well, the dentist has to do that. But before he can pull your teeth, he's got to deaden you. He's got to stick a needle in you and hurt you. So you generally assume the dentist is going to hurt you. He hurts you less, or she, by anesthetizing you. Then you don't know what's actually happening until after the pain medicine dies off and you start hurting again. Either way, you're going to hurt. So there's this attitude and animosity, if you will, psychologically toward dentists, and they feel it. They crack jokes. They try to make you laugh. But it's a high suicide rate. Or dentists, and I like the laughing gas as much as anybody else has ever had it. When you put that gas on you, nitric oxide, I think that's what you call it. Oh, my God. It's wonderful. If that's what drug folks feel, then I can understand why some of them get addicted to it. Many dentists do. They've had a tough, hard day. They got to go home sometimes to an unhappy relationship. Before they leave, and ain't nobody looking, they own the business. They'll put that gas mask on and just trip out and have a ball. It will be tempting for you if you had access to that in your home. Some of you don't, so you drink too much wine or whiskey or smoke a joint. And don't act like because you're such a believer in God or Jesus or scriptures that you don't do that. Because I know, I've never done it, but I know there are Christians who snort or smoke pot, people who smoke cigarettes. It has some kind of effect on them, a calming effect. Sometimes it can create a little bit more energy. I don't know, it has different effects. Caffeine, coffee, or tea can have effect on people. And it can make you think a little faster, and it can elevate your spirit. And people who are depressed often drink a lot of coffee all day long. It's not just to keep their energy going, it's to keep their adrenaline up. And some people create situations, crises, that give them a adrenaline kick. You can be addicted to the chemicals or chemistry of adrenaline. You have adrenal glands. They release a chemical in your system that gets you up. And people get addicted to that high or rise that they get from adrenaline. So when things get too calm and too peaceful, they'll create a crisis just for the hit or the high of the adrenaline. That happens all over the world, zillions of times. Sometimes people in the armed forces, soldiers or police officers or firemen or emergency workers, they like the adrenaline kick. They get inspired. You're stronger. You can move faster. You think quickly. You're fast on your feet. You can attend to issues and emergencies. And when that adrenal gland is not secreting as much and you're kind of calm, you get depressed. You don't think as well. You don't have as many ideas. So, bam, you'll do something. Create an argument. Create tension. Make something up to get you going. People do that. You create your own depression by trying to address it inappropriately. So life is not always so much about what you feel or sense. It's about what you think about what you feel or sense and how you respond to that. You're depressed when you it's like if I had time, I'm running out of time, I'd have you to write down to answers to this question. Not at all, just a little, somewhat, moderately, quite a lot, very much. To questions like, do you do things slowly? I do things slowly. I procrastinate. I have this apathy, this insincerity. Not at all, somebody would say. Or just a little, or somewhat, or moderately. I procrastinate a little bit. Or quite a lot. I move really slowly. I'm not motivated. I'm dispassionate. Or very much. I'm always dragging. Or I could say my future seems hopeless. Or visionless. Or without promise. Not at all. Or just a little. Or somewhat. Or really quite a lot. I have no future. All these are signs. I'm not going to go into all that tonight because I don't have time, but I will the next time. Just to test yourself, to see, are you depressed clinically? There was about 18 questions that I don't have time to ask. But of course, you know that whether you're depressed or not, but there are clinical aspects of it as well as psychological. And, again, pressure is not depression. There is a great shift or transition, as I bring this to a close, going on in the universe, which is a turning point in our evolution personally and collectively. The universe is bringing renewal and renovation to your mind, to my mind, to our minds. The universe, or God, you would say, is bringing renewal, renovation, renovate. We're rebuilding our minds. We're blessed, and we're called to this powerful, prophetic, and pivotal hour in world and human history. I'm blessed to be alive now. This means that we have what it takes. You have what it takes. We possess what it takes to pull everything that we need toward us. You have everything it takes to attract like a magnet and pull everything toward you that you need. Your soul has inherited godlike powers. And encrypted in your DNA is the living logic and logistics of the God mind. We're all being transformed, and this is your defining moment. It's our defining moment as a culture. A new you, a new way of being is on the horizon. You can sense it. In fact, the most violent letters I get sometimes, the most adversarial letters, are for people who are on the verge of a breakthrough. They know they're shifting, and they start resenting it. The greatest pain is when that baby is coming out of that womb. And those contractions get closer and closer. The pain is sharper. And sometimes the outburst of the female having that baby is more violent, more voluminous. They're just about to have the baby. In the culture, the baby that we're birthing is already in the birth canal. And the birth pain, when you're going through this pressure or depression and this anxiety, you're about to birth something. Where you are is not a period, it's a comma. Don't put an exclamation point there. Don't overemphasize it. See yourself walking out of the cycles of confusion and depression and into a new cycle of clarity and success. Courageously move forward and co-create your life and reshape your world to be abundant and joyful and peaceful and filled with all that is good and or all that is God. And finally, feel the positive energy of the universal intelligence. And I love this terminology. I like to say because that's a reference to God. But I say this universal intelligence. Let it come upon you. And with the maternal kiss, I heard somebody say, of Divine Mother. Sealing. Let it seal you. Let God seal you. Seal truth in your heart. Give you the confidence, the confidence to know your intent and to know what you wholly desire. You will witness it. What you fully, wholly, and accurately desire, it'll manifest in your life. The problem is some people don't even know what they fully desire. You don't know what you wholly desire. But that's why I say stop, meditate, study, investigate, excavate, if you will. Interrogate. What's really there? What's working for you and what isn't? What's working on you? What's working as you? What's working with you? And what do you perceive is working against you? Compare those answers with what is working for you and working with you. What's working for you? How are your relationships with you? What do you think about you? How do you experience you? How do you express you? How do you show up? How do you engage? Are you participating? You're good. You're God. You are divine. You're masterful. Not only created, you're creative and you're creating now as we speak. I'm just trying to remind you of how dynamic you are. How awesome you are. Not awful, awesome. How full of awe you are. How much you have to give and contribute. You're powerful. I'm not making this up. I'm talking to you. You're grandiose. You're extravagant. You're opulent. You're masterful. You're God. And you're not just, as I said earlier, created, but you are creative and literally creating. You might as well own what you chose, what you've chosen, or choose what you've chosen, because you chose what you have. You chose this. And you can unchoose it, or you can choose on. You can move on. But you need to start rethinking what you believe about you, why you believe that about you. You need to start to recollect yourself and your fragmented self, as I said earlier. A thought-provoking question to begin this new year is with, what do I wholly desire? This means that your sevenfold being, from the crown chakra to the root chakra, your cup must be filled all the way to the top with desire. Whole desire, so you can bear witness to it. You call for what you are. What you want wants you. Because what you want is you.
You are tapping on my head.
The energy of the universe is tapping.
Is there something that I didn't do right?
Is there something that I didn't do right? Did I misperceive? Something that I need to know.
Something that I need to write. You are tapping
I love these lyrics.
in the night.
Oh, I stopped the song. I didn't mean to stop the song. I always hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. I'll go back to it here. You're tapping in the nighttime. You're tapping. I turned the power off. I'll go back to it here. I hold this whole idea of being and accessing and becoming who you're supposed to become as we close, and being the person that you're ordained to be. We'll come right back to it. And you can hear that in your spirit. Apologize for that little mess up. I was trying to raise the volume on who you are, the volume on who you're becoming, the volume of your true access, and some of your excesses, because they have their place in space. Embrace yourself. I send positive, powerful energy to you and toward you. As you, I return you to yourself. I'm giving you back you and giving you back to you. Get up out of that bed of depression, self-pity, and realize how virtuous, valid, valued you are.
Something that I need to know.
Tapping. Tap your body. Stir up the energy. Sometimes I say embrace. My wife in her yoga teachings. Tap your face. Release that energy and tension. Do something. Shake yourself. Maybe you just want to hear a sweet song.
You just want me to sing again.
Thank you, Charles Holt. Thank you for listening. Will you let me hear from you tonight, or whenever you're listening to this? Go to the donate button. 10, that's not too much, is it? 20, 50. If this is really therapy for you, some of you would pay $250 an hour for this kind of therapy. If you went to a therapist, you'd have to pay $100 for this. So if it means something to you, do something. I want to heal my mind.
Tell me how to walk
I love this.
You are tapping in the night.
Oh, yeah.
All day long, baby, I am the song of freedom.
The song of freedom.
And my the voice of
So many men and women and children
who love one another.
Do you love you? Now embrace yourself. Hug you. Throw a kiss to you. I love you. I believe in you. That's why I take this time to give you, to minister, really reminding you what you already know and forgot. Blessings and energy, positive reinforcement. Be healed, be whole, be embraced, be accurate. Be accurate. Add, cure, care, rate. Be precise. Cut to pattern. You were born an original. Don't die a copy. You hear me? I love you. Send those questions, comments. Let me hear from you today. Thank you so much. We're at a critical time. We need your support. I need your support. I want to hear from you. You have mine. Okay? God bless you. Namaste. Ashe.
You are tapping
Goodbye.
on my head. Must be something that I'm doing right. But